All right, so the topic that I'll be talking about is marijuana. Yeah, I know. I wish I got death by cell phone waves, but I'll take a crack at it here. So the claim that I'm being responding to or refuting would be the rescheduling and legalization of cannabis from a Schedule One narcotic can open many economically beneficial doors for the United States. So this claim is kind of ambiguous. It doesn't really, is it the legalization of marijuana or is it the rescheduling of marijuana that is going to open all these beneficial doors for the United States? And it's not really clear. So is it one or the other? So I'm here to state some secondary claims. The first one would be legalization of marijuana and scheduling of narcotics are two completely different forms of law when it comes to the United States federal government. There's federal and there's state, and imagine like a steel wall in between. So that's the first one. The second one is, if you are a marijuana supporter, you should really try to focus on Proposition 64 to really know what will it take in order to make the discussion about any prohibition here here nationwide. And what Proposition 64 is also known as Californians to control, regulate, and tax adult use of marijuana while protecting children. And my third one would be legalization state by state of marijuana and treating it like tobacco, not rescheduling marijuana, is the way for better understanding and acceptance of this drug, marijuana. So first, let's go into what Schedule 1 drugs are. Schedule 1 drugs are substances or chemicals are defined as drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Some examples of Schedule 1 drugs are heroin, lysergic acid diethylamide, or LSD, marijuana, methylene dioxide methamphetamine, or ecstasy, methaqualone, and peyote. These, right off the bat, that marijuana doesn't belong, then, just chill out, it'll eventually get there. First, it has to go through all these states and before it can get to the federal government. So, just chill out, So the first response to the legalization is something that we hear all the time, it's being legalized in California and in Washington and Colorado. And, that's just the tip of the iceberg, Back in 1996, California was the first state to legalize medical marijuana, and then after that, all these other states followed. So, just focusing on California should really help, end the prohibition nationwide. What proposition to my second set response to my secondary claim? Proposition 64 states that there will be two new excise taxes on marijuana. One would be a $9.25 on the flower and a $2.75 on the leaves, with a 15% tax on retail price on marijuana. And they tried to pass it the first time, but it didn't because there wasn't really any clear, decisive notions of where the money is going to be. But with this new Proposition 64, it actually tells you exactly where the money is going to go. So the first one is going to go to administration and enforcing the measure. $2 million a year is going to go to the UC San Diego Center for Medical Cannabis Research. $10 million per year for 11 years for public California universities to research, evaluate, implement, and impact Proposition 64. These are the researchers that are going to, modify Proposition 64. And then it goes into the $3 million annually for 5 years to the Department of Highway Patrol, California Highway Patrol. And then the advocate that was explaining, he goes into mass incarceration, he goes into, war on drugs and the green industry and all that stuff. And to kind of get an answer for all those things, I'm gonna go to the ballot summary. And one of the ballot summaries, it says, allows local regulation and taxation of marijuana, and also authorizes resentencing and destruction of records for prior marijuana convictions. So right here, right off the bat, kind of is gonna, reduce the sentencings in the jail cells, which, is gonna eliminate mass incarceration. It is kind of diminish what the war on drug is because there are gonna be new marijuana policies that's gonna go into. And then it goes into more of the ballot summary, but you have to be 21 and over. And these are just things that you can just look up, Proposition 64. My third response to my third secondary claim is, according to the UC San Francisco published in February 2016, they stated that even though tobacco is legal in California, its use is not socially accepted and prevalence is failing. And marijuana is illegal, but its use is socially accepted and its prevalence is increasing. So these are kind of just facts that what California has done will catapult, ending prohibition nationwide. It would spread to all these other states that want to adopt the policy for marijuana. So to go back, legalization and scheduling of narcotics are two completely forms of law that when it comes to the United States federal government. Marijuana supporters should really focus on Proposition 64 to really know what it will take in order to end the discussion on prohibition and legalization state by state and treating it like tobacco. Not rescheduling marijuana is the way for better understanding and acceptance of marijuana.
Well, you've labeled the issue and you kind of summarized the argument that the advocate is making that says legalization would have particular benefits, and you're pinning your dispute here over the difference between rescheduling and legalization, and how important that is to the advocate's argument is not really explained. If everything is predicated on rescheduling, and rescheduling is not the thing that's going to produce these results, then some of your arguments seem relevant. But if the argument is that legalization in the long run is going to produce these particular benefits, you don't really have any dispute about this. All of your argument is that this is already happening, that it's a done deal. Well, that's a policy argument, not an issue of fact. So the question is, having changed this policy, is it going to get these results that the advocate says are going to occur? And if you simply agree with the advocate, then I don't know why we're having an argument. The only thing that you've done is kind of recap what some of the laws are in regard to marijuana without necessarily explaining how those laws change or alter the way we should perceive the advocate's claim. I know that there's a difference between legalization and rescheduling. Rescheduling is primarily the pharmaceutical issue that we're dealing with. There's an argument about where we spend the money that after we pass Proposition 64, that money is going to go toward researching this and maybe addressing that issue in the long run. So, but how that disproves the advocate's point, I'm not sure. Why it makes their point irrelevant, I'm not sure. It just is a random piece of information. And there's a lot of stuff in here that kind of fits in the same category. There's information here that's not untrue, but how am I supposed to contrast it to what the advocate's talking about? The last piece of information that you had, I thought, was potentially where there was going to be some conflict, where you suggest that tobacco is legal, but it's socially discouraged, and marijuana has been illegal, but it seems to be socially being more widely acceptable. Well, take a position. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is it harmful? See, if you can argue that it's harmful, then that legalization will increase its likelihood of being widely accepted and therefore increase its use, and that a harm would occur as a result of that, then I can see there's an argument. There's a conflict with what the advocate's talking about. But otherwise, it just seems like it's an interesting point, but how does it tie into the advocate's position? There's not enough contrast between what you're saying and what the other person has said. You don't really direct any of your arguments specifically at the secondary claims that the advocate presented, just at that one dispute over rescheduling and legalization. And I'm sure that if this was a debate, we'd have to look at what the proposition was. I'd have to look back and see whether or not the advocate's claim dealt with did rescheduling appear in the propositional claim, or did reducing the laws or changing laws or even legalization appear? How is that going to go about? I think there's an argument to be made that said legalization wouldn't change the rescheduling issue and we'd continue to have problems. There's an argument there. But you need to make that kind of an argument. And I just got the feeling that we're kind of floundering around with some information, without spinning our wheels, so to speak, without getting to a point. And you got to have a contrasting point to the other side. You've got to have something that we can compare with. So that's sort of what's missing. All right, thank you.